Join me for pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just realized I forgot to bring my computer. Luckily, I read everything. So, we also have public participation on it, but this is recorded, so they won't
Correct.
have an opportunity.
And actually, there's also on there, no one has emailed me any public participation. I've had the opportunity.
So we have a couple things under policies. We have the DFA investment policy.
This one was done as a first read back in April, and for some reason, we did not get it back in May, or it's the end of May now.
But the change to the last line was made.
The change to the last line was made, and this is what you were asked to do.
Yep.
It was put up into the draft for public comment. There's been no public comment, so. But wanting to make sure that we have this in place before we get into audit season.
Yeah, I read it. The change seemed good to me. It was clearly written. So I'm okay with it. Does anyone have a discussion on it for or against?
I'll move to accept it as a final read.
Second. Motion by Stan, seconded by Tim. Any discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have a JLDBB, suicide prevention. Yes,
This is,
policy or is it
this-
guideline?
this is policy.
Okay.
This is a required policy. This goes into, have to be doing, starting for the next school year. And policy needs to come to the board at this point, whether you take it as a first read tonight, and can do a second read in June. But it's an overview of what we need to be doing for our suicide prevention and response. Our guidance team has much of this in place, and we'll be bringing that plan to you as well. But this is the fairly boilerplate.
Yeah, and when I read it, I was kind of a few questions of who is doing these tasks and,
Right.
our staff.
So for the most part, it would be guidance and building level administration, and it is outlined in the plan, but what I want to make sure we don't do is that I narrow it down so specifically that if we have a change, that the whole thing needs to shift because that person is no longer here.
No, I was
So-
just curious of how it was gonna be implemented, not necessarily to nail it down in the policy. but
Right.
I was just curious of who some of these responsibilities belong to.
First line point person, building level guidance, and our social workers and student assistance counselors.
One of the things that, and I may be stepping from policy to procedure or outside of those bounds, but one of the things that I found missing was the intervention school resource officer.
Oh, absolutely.
And the reason being is, two reasons. One, mental health crisis intervention today compared to what it was 10 years ago is improved 150%. So there is a significant amount of trauma training there with her. But the second thing is in an emergency where you have that true person with a plan to commit suicide, that resource officer has a phenomenal amount of power to get an immediate mental health examination
Or assistant.
or assistance and the outside network with, I know you have a relationship with community partners and it goes beyond that. And I just would see, whether it's in the policy or whether it's in the procedure, I'd like to see some intervention level there for that. And I know this is prevention, but for that critical trauma where you've got a kid at risk.
Well, and we do that now. I mean, we
Yeah.
have not as much, fortunately, it hasn't happened as much this year. Last year, we had several instances where we did emergency transport.
Yep.
And, sometimes it's with the intervention of the SRO, and sometimes it was SRO was here and we did anyway.
Yep.
And, it's part of what we do, but certainly she needs to be part of, we do need to be really careful because the MOU also very clearly defines that she's not allowed to cross that line between counselor and facilitator. And she's certainly the facilitator in that process, and I think that's procedural.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure we don't write in anything that is going to muddy that MOU either.
But statutorily, as a sworn police officer, she has an obligation
Oh,
to be
no question.
in a suicide or attempted suicide. And I don't think we get, obviously, open up
Statutorily,
those
so do we.
conversations, but I don't think we get that resistance on the police department's side. But there's an awful lot of benefit that she or he in the future
Mm-hmm.
can add to that mix, and there's a lot of hoops that they can jump through that you guys can't.
But understand that also, part of this is that is incumbent on us to jump through the hoops and to have the hoops defined prior to, that's part of this process. And so while yes, that position needs to be an integral part of, I think it's also incumbent on us to have the way to do it potentially without, because if there's a crisis elsewhere, I can't depend on her or that position to be that next piece. We have to be able to do it without, because there are times that the SRO gets pulled for something on the town side, or maybe in another building, and we have a crisis here, and I can't clone her. So I need to make sure too that we have pieces in place, that what the police department is a huge resource for us, and I may call another officer.
Right.
But that's,
So are you suggesting that we need to be some edits to it to make sure that people don't lose sight of that when they review this
I
policy?
want to bounce off the superintendent. She has a bigger picture, but as an outsider looking at the policy first time, I was surprised that the resource officer wasn't there. The other thing, by getting him or her involved, is it starts a documentation process at some level where if this kid, say, may not be deemed a danger at 2:00 in the afternoon, but all of a sudden at 8:00 at night, something else happens, that report and documentation process is a benefit later on. And
but that's gonna be part of our process anyway, whether it's the SRO that calls it in. That position is certainly in the loop. We will make sure that gets communicated.
And again, part of my, it's not a concern, it's more, I'm seeing from the outside in, because I've had prior administrations where stuff has happened at school, we haven't been aware, and it's been traumatic. To the point where a kid drove his bike in front of a tractor trailer. So I think, whether it's policy procedure, that's your expertise, but somewhere in there, any type of, notification, suicide threat or whatever, it needs to be that collaboration, whether it's her in the building, and if for some reason she's out sick, it needs to be another one. I mean, that's top priority when you're
Oh, no
on
question.
your list of responses
No question.
from the PD side.
And I think too, whether it gets added into policy, it certainly needs to be part of the plan. I
Right.
want to make sure that it doesn't say we can't do without this person. It's more, this is an integral part of the team.
Yeah, I think it needs to be a collaboration. I'm not
Absolutely.
saying one's better than the other, but you guys have tools available to you that she doesn't, and she has
And vice
tools that
versa.
aren't available to you.
I think we should potentially consider some revisions to this to point to that partnership
Collaboration.
and collaboration, because, so that it doesn't get lost. You understand it, but other people are gonna be reading and trying to implement this policy when you're not here. So you need to, I think it needs to point to that, so that if somebody reads the policy, can go, oh yeah, and this is all should happen when possible.
But I guess my rejoinder to that would be, it will be part of the plan
Good.
as And that also will be coming to the board. So yes, I agree it has to be part of the plan. To say that it's part of the policy, that person doesn't work, is not our employee. And so for me to put in a policy governing what that
Yeah, I'm not saying.
person
that.
is
I'm
going to
saying-
do,
Saying if it's whether it's a notification piece or just pointing to that, this communication and potential collaboration needs to be considered and noted in policy. You know, because depending on the situation, a multitude of things could happen. But I think that there was still, like Tim said, that if there's a situation, that there should be some informational sharing, should be pointed to in the policy.
so then my question is, would you add to I under specific requirements for plan terms?
I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, promotion of cooperative efforts between the district and its schools and community suicide program personnel, including but not limited to the SRO.
And then I guess my question for you, Ruth Ellen, is when you come back with your checklist and your procedure, you anticipate coming back with a second read with that procedure attached to it? What do you?
We could certainly do that. I mean, this drives the plan, so the policy says, here's what the plan is built from. We have pieces in place. They may not have, so for me to go through a tabbed document that has A labeled, B labeled, it's not gonna look just like this now.
Mhm.
So once these are in place, we can go through and say, here's the pieces that we have, putting it in this format so that that would become the R that goes with this plan, with this policy.
So when we do the second read, would you anticipate, I plan on making a motion to approve it as a first read with our discussion that can be changes coming back later on. Do you anticipate both of those documents coming back at the same time?
Well, as this will drive which sections, how they get organized in that plan.
Yep.
It might be first and then plan comes for approval. Could certainly do them together as long as basic format's not gonna shift too much, so then we're in constant
This is a
revision.
required policy. correct?
It is, yes.
I mean, I guess I'm okay with the change you made.
But you accept it as a first read.
I'll accept it as a first read now with the changes coming in. I guess as long as the school resource officer is incorporated
Oh, and I have a problem with
to
that.
your comfort level, then I'm okay.
So we have a motion to accept it as a first read with some suggested edits. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Josh. Any discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving along to new business, we have a certificate of authority for student assistant grant.
Student assistance grant is the grant that we have had renewed for this year. And new this year with that is, it's interesting. Some grant approvals will want the board chairman to sign. This asks me to sign, but it asks the board to certify that I'm I'm employed as the superintendent of the Farmington School District, that I've enclosed a vote of the meeting taken ostensibly tonight, duly called and held on said date, and that I am authorized on behalf of the district to enter into contracts and agreements, and that this authority remains valid for 30 days to give me time to sign that. And I put the full document up into the Word folder. This has been, in the past, here's your grant, here's what you signed that you're gonna do. Now they want that you're saying that, yes, you voted to grant me the authority to sign this so that we can receive funds.
So I'll make a motion to grant Ruth Ellen authority to sign documents for the student assistant grant on behalf of the board.
I'll second.
Is that a second, Josh?
That was Joel.
Oh, sorry, Joel.
It was Joel. It was me and Stan actually, but whatever.
Okay, so the motion is second to give Ruth Ellen authority to sign the student assistant grant, and that she's currently employed as a superintendent. Any discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. One more thing for you to sign.
Oh. I've got some questions on that. Next, under old business, we have construction and security upgrades. But are we gonna be talking about that in public or non-public?
That may be primarily in non-public as far as the nuts and bolts of it. And I think that part needs to be discussed before you go back into what you're gonna do with the RFP.
Okay,
But
So-
if you wanted to take that in a different order, that's certainly your prerogative.
yeah, I know we just discussed, we had to do some of this discussion in non-public because of the content. I think that maybe we should table this after we have that discussion.
Okay. So table the non-public.
Anybody disagree with that? Okay. So next,
Motion to table.
I'll be formal. I'll make a motion to table to after the non-public discussion.
Second.
Or motion to table to non-public or after?
Because there's gonna be some public portion,
Okay, all right, got
If
it.
we're gonna make a decision regarding which way we're gonna proceed, that has to be in public.
Correct. Whether that happens tonight.
I think it will.
Okay.
Any discussion on that?
Was the second, Josh?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Next, on the budget, we have CRF considerations. I know you put some stuff in the folder, so go ahead and let us know what your questions are.
Would you like a hard copy and I can look at mine electronically?
Ken, I
Okay,
mean, I did read it.
I believe you.
I think there was 3 or 2.
There's two.
Okay, 2.
Yes.
So I guess the question is, if I can summarize what it is, you want to know if we want to take it out of capital reserve or undesignated fund balance.
Yes, in a nutshell.
And the
Yes.
first one that you wanted to discuss was regarding the lockers.
That's fine. It doesn't matter which.
So on the ballot, on the warrant, it was to take up to $35,000.
Correct. And we actually expended 32.
And for me, it's pretty basic. We could pay out of undesignated fund balance, but we told the taxpayer it was not a tax impact, and we're gonna take it out of capital reserve. And any revenues that we would use to pay out of the undesignated fund balance would be going back to the taxpayer. So I would
And,
be consistent with doing it what we said.
well, actually, yes, so if you take it out of the capital reserve fund, it will go back to the general fund and back to the taxpayers.
If that 32,000, if it would go back to the taxpayers.
It would. It would, because it becomes, because we have sufficient in unexpended revenue right now to cover it, it would essentially go back.
But we take it out of the fund that we asked the taxpayer to take it out. That's what my opinion. Tim?
My only concern is I looked at the trust funds and like I asked them up in the folder this morning. And they're low. We're in a position where we're gonna have to ask for more money to increase some of these trust funds. I don't have a problem taking it out of fund balance, but before I make that decision, there was a notation on the agenda for predicted June encumbrances, and I'd like to see what that number is first.
I will have that for you for June 1st. I don't have the full number now. I mean, that was just telling you that it was coming for June 1st. I don't have them.
So I'd like to look at those encumbrances to see where the fund balance actually falls before I spend, that's just my opinion, 36. Anything that would necessitate this have to be done before you have those encumbrances.
It doesn't have to. I need to give the trustees of the trust funds some lead time to get the checks cut and prepared if we're gonna do that. They meet the third Thursday in June, which is getting really close to the end of our fiscal year, but it's certainly doable if we're gonna go that route. I will tell you that what I'm looking to encumber should not take us over. We looked at that 550,000 unexpended thereabouts. I'm not looking at going over that by any stretch. I'm not going to cut too significantly into, but
So,
I will have that for you on June 1st, on Monday, so.
Joel, Stan, and Josh, what's your thoughts on this? Joel, do you think we ought to take it out of the trust funds like we asked the taxpayer, or potentially consider taking it out of undesignated fund balance?
If we have it, I think we should take it from undesignated fund.
Say that again, Stan?
If we have it in the undesignated fund balance, I think we should take it out of there.
I mean, I guess I'd go with the trust fund.
Josh,
I would say trust fund as well.
now, do you want to, Tim wants to wait till we know what those encumbrances are. I'm okay with waiting. So,
You've got three board members that have said, I want to go with the trust fund. I'm okay with that. I can go either way, but I'm okay with taking it out of the trust fund.
okay, so I'll make a motion to take it out of trust funds as proposed on the warrant. Second, discussion? Not hearing any discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Stan?
I'll say no.
Okay, one opposed, Stan. The next one had to do with the school equipment fund, CRF release. This had to do with the AV,
This was the, sound equipment,
right, but it was installed in both schools or just one?
Henry Wilson and Lee's.
Okay, so these monies were expended, this
Yes.
$11,195. And it was on the warrant to be taken out of that?
No, this was done by, public hearing. We are agents to expend that fund. It was done by public hearing on June 3rd of last
So
year
in that public hearing, we asked to expend the funds.
from the school equipment fund because at that point, there was not that an undesignated thing.
Right.
And the vote was on June 10 to do that. The statute requires a public hearing and a vote to expend from capital reserve fund, but there is not a requirement to expend if other funds are available. So we couldn't take it from the capital reserve without having had that vote. But that vote doesn't obligate it to come from that fund.
So I'm open up for discussion. Mine's simple. I the same reason, it's we told by public hearing what we're gonna do. We should follow through unless there's extenuating circumstances. It's only $11,000. It's in that account, so I would be consistent, but it's not as to the same level as it was on the warrant, but, so, discussion, Tim? Stan, your thoughts?
Well, again, I think because the operating budget was passed, if we have leftover money, we should use it because that's what the taxpayers wanted us to spend on the school system. If we just take it out of a fund, we'll have to replenish it later. So taxpayers are going to pay for it again later to put it back in the fund. So we might as well just leave it from the unexpended balance and leave the trust alone.
Josh?
I would go with the trust fund.
Joel?
Same opinion as the last one.
So Tim, you gonna look something up or? I mean, you were looking for?
Like that. I will be there, so.
Okay.
Honestly.
So while Tim's looking for that, Ruth Allen, so the Commerce list, you're gonna have for our next meeting next week.
That is the intent, yes.
Dawn, can you look at minutes that you provided with the board? I'll read from the minutes. Saying personal to 198:20-C2. Reason of the public hearing. Is that 198:20C or is that 198? Fresh on the memory of that.
I wasn't here for that public hearing.
I know, but I'm talking about the RSA. In order to expand, do we have to post under 20C or is it 20?
Let me check.
I've got 20C in front of me, but I'm thinking we have to post a public hearing under 20-B. Could be wrong.
All right, let me look at the. (20-B) is for unanticipated funds in the amount of $5,001.
Can you look at C2?
D2 is trust funds created for specific purposes. Actually, it's 198.20C.
Section 2 is what the notice says.
Yep.
So it's because of the 7 days. Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay.
So my vote would be, is there a vote on the table?
No,
No, so we need a motion.
we're waiting for you.
I'm
So I'll make a motion to take it out of trust fund as we said at the public hearing. For a second? Seconded by Tim. Any discussion? Not hearing any discussion. All's in favor?
Aye.
No.
Stands opposed? Okay. You know what? Do we have anything else for public?
Let me double check. That was, oh, I do have one other. I've had a request that's come in. The Grace Community Church does a meal each Wednesday. Our food service director does the cooking for that. Food service will be done next week. We've had a request that they would be able to continue to use adult kitchens for preparing that meal, as it's beyond what they can do in their own kitchen. Has had access, it's not someone who hasn't been in buildings, but because it's ordinarily a facilities request form wouldn't come to the board, but because the buildings are officially closed to outside groups until further notice, I'm bringing the request to the board to see if that's something we would allow.
So it's, I'm just by me again, Grace's Community Church.
Grace Community Church does a community supper Wednesday nights. They're requesting to use our high school kitchen facility to.
Have they been using our facility in the past?
They have used it in the past because he's been kind of doing it. He's been doing food service and doing that while he's been doing food service off the clock for us. We've not been paying him to be doing that. And he has utilized. But it will now be an outside group further up. further removed outside group. So is that something that you wish to let?
So is it a food service director that's supervising that sort of group?
He would be doing the cooking.
Okay. You would be in the building.
He would be in the building. In fact, it may be just him and possibly another person who has worked.
Sure.
I think if there's a way we can support the community, I don't have a problem with it. It's certainly not something they're doing for profit. But knowing that the buildings have been closed to outside groups, I'm bringing it to you.
More for supporting other people, but if we set a policy that's closed to outside groups, is it closed or not closed? Yes. Because how different is this than if somebody came to us with something they wanted to do in a sports tournament, or something like that? Or-
Because this is someone who's been in our building for long.
So
on a
has
daily
it
basis.
some other people.
Not many.
They're just doing, there's no meal physically taking place here. Just
They're
working.
cooking it and taking it out.
Taking it out.
Yes.
So we're really supplying besides facilities,
Appliances.
appliances and electricity.
That's it.
How often, is this a one-time expectation or is this,
They do meals weekly on Wednesdays, so the request would be weekly for the summer.
Normally you used to use all the Robertson and the old mall. Not doing it there because it's closed or?
It's closed and they don't have the baking facilities.
Also,
this is for every Wednesday throughout the summer?
Yes.
That's the difference. Discussion from other members for or against?
How long has this been going on?
As far as having done it here, I don't believe it's been that long. I think it's been a few weeks. I don't know exactly. I think that he'd start some prep work here while they were finishing up with something else. He was off the clock there, he was doing. Now they're looking at not being here and he said, okay. And I said, well, I'm not gonna give you permission one way or the other until I take this to the board. It has to go to the board.
He didn't fill out a use policy or use form to use it in the past?
No, he did not. So what would we, if we would consider doing this, if we're considering it, wouldn't that be a requirement because we would typically
Facilities
have,
use for, yes,
because we need
facilities use for,
to have him waive liability of us
Right.
and so forth.
absolutely.
Well, I think he should have filled one out before. I didn't even know this was happening, and I would have liked to know.
So where does our liability stand? Is this an employee of ours?
No, he works for the food service company.
So are we covered? Or is liability if, say, the kitchen caught on fire?
If he was working in the auspices of Grace, it would be under Grace, not food service. But as with the facilities request, they would have to present us the insurance certificate for that, and that it would be contingent upon receiving that.
Do the facilities use, they would have to give us a liability and also give us, I don't know if they call it what, insurance, not right.
We have a insurance certificate, a liability certificate that they have to provide us.
Yeah, additionally named.
Yep.
Okay, that was it.
No,
Go ahead.
my only other concern is, you know how many people we just looking to bring in? Right? We set a number to,
Himself and maybe one other. He said he understood that it had to be limited and that we couldn't have just,
I don't know the cafeteria area that they work with, but I suggest when we're allowed to use the facility, it should be no more than 3 people that fits his need in the grant. The number's low in social distancing. If there's any cleaning charges or cleaning requirements that we'll have to do our school center. And I know he's the food service
Right.
director, but I
No,
want to make
absolutely.
sure that
Absolutely,
he
yeah.
understands that
There's gonna be.
And any other cleaning charges that would be incurred would be on
The other
on
thing is
them.
that if they're gonna fulfill that expectation of cleaning and disinfecting after they do it, that needs to be
Part of the agreement.
clear.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that they assume they're qualified enough to do that, based on what they're currently doing, and they need to, in some ways, in that release, and attest that they will
Continue to do that.
use the proper protocols after they're finished this work.
Right.
They need the facilities use form, the insurance binder is duly additionally insured, and the, no, say, I don't know, but it should be no more than 3 people, and to follow, and them to attest and certify that they're gonna follow all applicable cleaning and disinfecting protocols. I'll make that motion with those conditions. Discussion,
Yes.
go ahead.
Normally I would say yes to this immediately. I just feel like as we're still under whatever orders we're under due to the pandemic, are we going to allow coaches to go in with 2 or 3 players in the gym and work with them this summer?
But you could ask, what's the difference? It's facility use.
It's-
Yeah.
Which is why I'm bringing.
We took a pretty hard line here at the get-go that we weren't going to have the buildings used, but I guess it's going to creep its way back in.
Well, I think based upon hopefully the governor making some changes as of June 1st, that maybe some leeway or no.
Okay.
There may be some, I know there's been some comments both directions, so I'll leave that there for now.
school-wise, obviously, much but that's not objective, that's law.
We were supposed to have summer guidance a couple weeks ago, so.
I think the difference here, in my opinion, that we're seeing is we're in a corona crisis. Unemployment rates are 18 to 22%. This organization's providing service to our taxpayers to feed them. And I think that's the difference where we balance, a coach coming in with 2 or 3 kids versus feeding their community. That's kind of why I only have the issue with it, being that we have those 3 people that are certified to clean, whereas our coaches or any other organization may not have those skills to what the level needs.
I mean, those requests aren't before us yet, but they may be coming, and in consideration of those, there may be some requirements that we would need to add to feel comfortable for allowing.
And I think one of the things we may look at is if we're not bringing in our own students, do we allow other student groups to come in? But that's something the board to chew on for later date.
It's also supporting a religious organization, which public entity isn't supposed to do.
There's that.
We have had penny sales here. We have had several different churches who have used the facilities.
I think if you've got,
Yeah, let's not look. I guess let me just clarify my comment here. I love the Grace dinners. I think they're fantastic for the community. I just wanted us to just talk a little bit more about whether or not the timing was right. But if this board feels that it is, I'm going to vote right along with you. I'm not trying to slam Grace or church or anything else.
No, I understand your comment, Joel.
Yeah.
It's, we need to
Be prudent.
be prudent and take every request seriously and try to be consistent, and thoughtful for the best interests of the community. And I had some concerns, facility use by others, in fact, but limited time in the summer, I'm okay with it also. And we'll deal with what the changes will have to be next year. Any other discussion? Otherwise, I'll call for the motion. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
No,
Stand opposed. Anything else? You tell them the public. No, 9:20. Be home by midnight.
Tomorrow.
At this point, I'd like to thank everybody, and I'm gonna make a motion to end the public portion and go into non-public session and then RSA 91A32 for security upgrades.
Second.
Would that be? What would that be?
It's under security.
Security.